Good afternoon, everybody. There we go. That's what we're looking for. I'm Matt Schechner. It's a remaining thrill to be the CEO of Advertising Week as we wind down day 3. And we are just overwhelmingly flattered and humbled that Bob Lord is choosing to spend some of his valuable time with us and, more importantly, with you. You know, those of you that have been here before know that the Thought Leadership Program is the foundation of everything that we do. There's all kinds of sexy stuff at night. We were thrilled to have Sting in our inaugural Impact Awards last night. There's a big concert tonight and all kinds of sexy stuff at night. But the permission to do that is based on what happens here during the day in the thought leadership arena. And we set out every year to curate a program that delivers the very, very best and brightest. And Bob is really the very essence of what we're trying to do in that regard. By design, you've seen that there's no singular theme to the program. We try to find the very best and brightest we can across all the areas that are of interest. And we were thrilled to have Maria Winans on stage earlier this week. We've had really robust participation from IBM, and they are, in a very quiet way, leading a real reinvention of the business. And we've all heard a lot about cognitive. Bob is really going to bring that to life for us and what that means today. And his job as Chief Digital Officer for IBM is absolutely fascinating, bringing almost a startup mentality to one of the oldest, most venerable brands in American and indeed in global business. And what he's doing to expand their base, to go beyond a core existing base of customers, and the mandate that he has is absolutely the equivalent in business of, I think, of a real thrilling roller coaster ride. And I have no doubt at the end that he will emerge, land safely, everything in place, and that he will achieve his mission. So I'm going to get off. Bob Lord is going to get on. Thank you, IBM. If you haven't gotten a T-shirt, by the way, on the way out, do that. It's really, really clever. Bob Lord. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. So a reinvention. IBM is a 105-year-old company. Just think about that, 105 years old. And coming on as a Chief Digital Officer was probably the last place I actually would have thought about going. IBM, though, as you dig underneath sort of who it is, what it's about, you understand that IBM's actually reinvented itself many, many times in that 105 years. And Ginny Rometty has been leading a transformation and a revolution quietly for the last 4 years. She asked me to join the team as IBM's first Chief Digital Officer. So what does that mean? What does it mean to be a Chief Digital Officer? What it means is figuring out how you do digital transformation in an organization as large as IBM to bring value to the masses. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And I'll talk about what cognitive computing means and where we're heading in this new world of cognitive computing and the era that we're about to pivot on. But first, let me first talk about digital transformation, because I think it's important for you to understand where I see my job and how I see my job and how I am sort of taking on the responsibility to help move this organization in a very different way than we've ever done before. Digital transformation demands sort of tools and technologies that enable 3 things, okay? It has to enable innovation, has to drive performance, and ultimately has to focus on the customer-client journey. The journey is the North Star. The experience somebody has with IBM, how they interact, what is the digital experience they have, how do they feel, what is the sentiment, okay? And when you think about IBM's core business, there is a finite group of customers that drive a majority of the revenue and majority of the profit. And the way that IBM typically has gotten to those clients is with face-to-face, man-to-man combat. Okay? Big, awesome, big face-to-face sales force. Very large consulting business. Okay? Solving really some of the biggest, hardest problems that this world faces around healthcare, around cybersecurity, around financial banking security. Okay? Some really hard problems. Okay? Just think about it. If we can unlock that juice and those tools and technologies and allow entrepreneurs and startups to access those tools and technologies, the impact they could have on the world, the possibilities are endless. My job is to help with that digital reinvention of IBM. Now, when we look at the new world and the new buyers, okay, they're not only CMOs and CIOs anymore, they're developers, entrepreneurs, startups, as I said before. And their missions of who they are and where they're going, the biggest thing that they're worried about is, how do I interact with a brand? Does the brand understand who I am? And by the way, they want to interact with a brand just like they do when they buy a shirt off Amazon, with nobody interfering. So how do I actually communicate out to a new company or a startup in a digital way and show them what IBM has and what the experience IBM is? And we know that marketers understand that customer experience is the North Star. And we also know that marketers are going to be buying technology in the future more than necessary, and making technology decisions more than anything before. So, how do we actually build systems that solve the next generation of problems in the world? What do we do in a world where no longer do the big enterprise companies have the impact on the world, right? But the Ubers of the world have an impact, and the Airbnbs have an impact on the world. And we know that they've disrupted basically industries with a source of their technology. But how do I get them to consider IBM as a tool that will allow them to do that? Because I don't know what the next Uber is going to be, and I don't know who the next Airbnb is going to be. But I do know that the knowledge that I have in the enterprise space is so valuable to actually how they could actually really disrupt the world. So I need to get to them, okay? And the way that we're going to do this is through the cognitive computing era. It's the next digital revolution. This is about figuring out how we train technology to do things for us in a very different way. How do developers actually code to train a computer to code? How do we do that? Okay, well, I can tell you, IBM has solved some of those problems in the healthcare industry. IBM has used Watson in a way to look at lots of different medical data to assist doctors in diagnosing cancer patients and treatments. Okay? IBM has used it in cybersecurity. So where there's lots and lots of data, you can be informed and you can actually assist a human to actually make better decisions. Can you imagine if we sort of take cognitive computing to another level, which allows our decision-making to be much more efficient and much more effective than ever before? And how do I figure out how to take something like Watson and unleash it on the rest of the world so that they can actually transform their businesses in ways that we've never thought about before? So it's more than AI. It's more than machine learning. This is about aiding somebody in their decision-making and allowing us to think at a higher level than ever before. It's getting at dark data. What do I mean by dark data? We all know here in the marketing world that we can tag somebody, we can cookie them, we can find them on their device now. But what we can't do is we don't know what images they're looking at. We can't necessarily understand the videos that they're looking at. Watson has the ability to learn how people interact with dark data. And if we can take data that we know today and marry it with dark data, you can actually start coming up with some really, really interesting inferences and conclusions that allow different decision-making. And that's the journey we're on. So my job, kind of simple, if you take it, is to unleash IBM to empower the world. Okay? Two very important words in sort of that mission that we're going on. Unleash the power of IBM products, services, and people and thinking and our research to empower whoever it may be. It could be the lowly developer that only wants to code on a Sunday night and just wants to have fun. How do I make my tools accessible? How do I actually make them rich? How do I make them interact in a very different way with IBM than they ever did before? Because IBM is known more as an enterprise company. You know, I support the big banks. I don't necessarily support you on a Sunday night when you want to play around with our IoT tools or our Watson tools. But the reality is you can. Okay? I want to empower that person to change the world. And that's the mission we're on. But there's a new buyer group here, which IBM has never really focused on before, and that's the developer. You can't market to a developer. Can't run a big campaign out there and tell a developer to join IBM. What I've got to do is I've got to inspire the developer to join our revolution, to come on board in the cognitive computing era, right? You joined us when we did Linux and the open source environment. Now join us on this new journey so that you actually improve yourself, your skills, and oh, by the way, your impact on the world. And I firmly believe that IBM is in an awesome position to actually impact that in ways we've never done before. The intersection of that is the total client experience, which I said before. It's at that intersection of marketing and technology. It's the experience that we give to somebody on a Sunday night when they just want to dabble and they just want to taste IBM. Am I delighting them? Am I showing them what IBM has to offer to them so that I land them as a possibility? Okay, we're engineered to build very complex products, custom development products. How do I move that organization from going to that solve to a $100 instance of Watson Analytics? Okay? How do I make it so that Watson Analytics gives you insight to your business for $100 that you would have never seen before and delight them? And we're working on that. So it's not only the experience that somebody has with IBM, and I'll show you an example of that. It's how quickly can we iterate it, how quickly can we get our products out and services, so that we talk about simplified experiences. So let me show you 3 examples of, I think, the rapid iteration that we're embracing at IBM since I've only been there 6 months. The first one is from an acquisition we did, which was the weather company, right before I started. And the challenge with the weather company was, how do we actually use our location information in a very different way? How do we iterate on it? And how do we actually get it into market very quickly? This video will show you what the offer is.
How to put location to work for any brand. Okay, say you've got a product or service. You know your customers. The big question is where to find them. The answer? Right in front of you. So how did the weather company become the leading expert in location? First, we made the world's best weather app. Got 200 million people to download it. Like her, him, especially him. And made it work so well, everyone says, that's awesome. Fact, 4 out of 5 of our app users invite us along on their journeys every day. That gives us the world's largest set of first-party location data, and that's enabled us to create a tool called LocationFX. LocationFX helps us visualize data about our users, their lives, behaviors, and patterns. And that data helps us paint a portrait of your target audience. Check it out. This is the top 100,000 sports enthusiasts. Each movement of dots represents the pings we see from those users in 1 hour, followed by the next hour and the next. Here are the places they go: gyms, recreation fields, sports bars. To help fine-tune targeting strategies, we can even look for overlap with other portraits. You can see it all, right down to a single city on a single day. Because we know where people go, we know who they are, not just sports enthusiasts. Tennis moms, tech junkies, house flippers, house buyers, weddings on the way, babies on the way, loves dogs, loves cats. LocationFX knows them all better than anyone. We're using the power of location data to identify audiences, target the most valuable consumers, and deliver messages precisely to the right people. So businesses can start a conversation here that ends in a sale here. LocationFX. Only from the Weather Company and IBM Business. Think of us as a location company powered by weather.
Okay, huge message there, right? Weather Company was only purchased about 5 months ago, conceptualizing what do we actually do with that data and how we actually bring it out to market, and how can actually marketers use it, okay? The power of IBM to get these out the doors and get us focused. That what I will say about IBM is when you get people focused at IBM and you get them aligned, things can get done very, very quickly. We have to continue to sort of iterate on those products as we come out and do it. It doesn't look like IBM at all, right? Now, to this marketing community right here, that's probably something that you say, oh, yeah, okay, I've seen something like that before. It's location data, I get it. But for IBM to launch something as quickly as we did with this is pretty phenomenal. The second case study I want to give you is something called the Learning Lab. As I said to you before, this developer community is really important to us. If I don't get the developers to sort of join our revolution in cognitive computing, we're not going to make it, okay? We have to sort of double, triple the amount of developers that are using IBM technology. And they have lots of choices out there, right? Whether it's from Google, from Microsoft, from Amazon Web Services, from a startup, they have lots of choices. And the reality is, when it comes down to it, even if the CIO and the CMO have decided that they're going to use IBM and that they're going to commit to IBM, what happens in reality is somebody over the weekend will try a tool. They'll bring that tool into work the next on that Monday, and they'll actually develop a prototype on that tool and that fabric. And then what happens is they'll go to their business owner, and they'll say, hey, I just did this great new little tool. And the business owner will say, you know what, keep going on that. That's actually pretty cool. And the next thing you know, it's a pilot. And the next thing you know, they're porting a lot of their data onto a cloud that's not an IBM cloud because it wasn't in the consideration set. And oh, by the way, somebody gets a memo in the CIO office that they've selected someone else to run this pilot. And the CIO has so many other things to worry about, they let that pilot go. So if I don't get to that decision maker, it's really, really difficult, okay? So what we did, since I've come on board, is we created something called the Learning Lab. The Learning Lab is basically a way of a developer using cognition computing or using Watson to figure out how we can help them in their life. How we can actually help them learn more about what IBM tools are about, a discovery tool. Because the reality is, there are so many choices, we're trying to actually narrow down and make it easy. Because at the end of the day, developers want things to be done easily for them. If it's hard, they can go over and do something else with somebody else. If that's hard, they'll go to somebody else. Right? So we've got to make it frictionless for them to use IBM tools and services. Okay, so here's a video to show you what we've done there. So just trying to give you the tone. Okay, this is fun. This is like when I'm dating myself now, but when I used to go have fun on the weekends, I used to take apart my father's Le Mans engine and put it back together. That was fun for me during the weekend. Okay, take the spark plugs out, the choke, all that stuff that doesn't exist in a car anymore, almost. But now, what people do on the weekend to have fun is they code. They just want to have a lot of fun. They want to experiment. They want to see whether or not they can actually do something differently. The tools available to kids these days is really lots of fun. So Learning Lab is a different way of looking at IBM. Because before, what you think about IBM is, I need a salesperson to come in, I need to go through official training, I need to get certified, I need to then be able to actually then use IBM tools, right? Now we've given them a Learning Lab and discovery tool that actually allows them to pull down Watson APIs and our IoT APIs and our analytics APIs and play with them. Give them a sandbox that they can play around with our tools and see what the possible is. Okay? It's playful. It's energetic. We're going to be spending a lot of time in development communities around the world. So we go where they are. Okay? IBM is known to do great big events, right? Create these wonderful sort of show places where people come to us. No. The reality is, in the developer community, we got to go to them. We have to figure out where they are, help them figure out how to use IBM tools in a very different ways. And you know what? Leverage the billions of dollars that IBM has put in Watson and cognitive computing. Why the hell wouldn't you want to do that? Okay, why wouldn't you want to understand the intelligence of this tools and technology and figure out how to apply it to either your personal life or to your company? We actually had a kid in India who was on stage with me at the Indian Developer Conference. 12 years old, started his own business with Watson APIs. And what it was Ask To Me is the name of the site. You can go to the site and you ask To Me any question you want. And it comes back with an answer. And he got on stage. This 12-year kid had more confidence than anyone I've ever seen. And he stood up there and he just talked about what he did with Watson APIs and how he made a business out of himself. It was pretty phenomenal. The tools are approachable, accessible, but let me tell you something. IBM has not made it seem that way. We've made it seem very difficult. We talk about all the hard problems Watson's solving, not the simple, not the way that we're going to win in the market. Okay, the next is very, very simple for all of you here that are in the B2C world. But discoverability in the B2B world is really, really hard. Okay? When you go to any kind of B2B sort of site around software or technology, it's so hard to navigate what the hell you're seeing. So why the hell don't we use Watson to help our customers, when they come to IBM, discover things that they may not know about us? Well, Bob, what the hell, how do we know what they want before they get there? Well, we know what they're searching on, right? Let's use that intelligence. We've used that in the B2C world forever. And oh, by the way, let's create a newsroom. Let's create a Huffington Post newsroom for a particular buyer set that has IBM content in it and third-party content. And once somebody consumes that content, let's use Watson intelligence to serve up not only IBM products, but partner products and ways that we can help them solve that problem. So last week, we launched something called Think Marketing. I'll show you a video about how that works. And a lot of it is sort of very simple of taking B2C principles and applying it to the B2B world. So here we go. Thank you. The interesting thing there with that is it's very elementary when you come from the B2C world. But to apply those principles to the B2B world was not an easy thing to do in such a short period of time. That was launched in 60 days. We curated a newsroom. We started with imagery. If you went to sort of the old IBM.com, there was lots of text. Wasn't sort of engaging at all. You really had no sharing functionality whatsoever. You couldn't share things socially. But think about what this starts to get at. It starts getting away from our campaigns, which IBM is a master at doing campaigns. We now have an anchor newsroom. That anchor newsroom is all of our content. Whenever we do, we now are posting up to 20 different new pieces of content in that newsroom, specifically targeted at the marketer. But now what my marketers are doing, they're not doing campaigns anymore. What they're doing is they're curating stories. Those stories are then used in their digital campaigns. to drive traffic. So there's alignment, okay? No longer am I talking about the cognitive dress and not driving people to our retail offering, which were disjointed before, right? So now what I do is I actually send that content out, and I drive people to the newsroom. And then what I have is I have 6,000 digital sellers. Those people where you saw sort of talk to an expert, those people are using the content to get to their contacts, okay? So now I have this huge machine where IBM has one voice to the marketer. And how powerful is that? And oh, by the way, not only do I have a voice for you, that's a common voice for IBM across all of this huge organization. It's 400,000 people, guys. This is not a small organization globally. Okay, I have one voice, but now I have a recommendation engine that's consistent. And it's catered to who you are. So if you're coming in and you're looking for digital marketing articles, and you start to consume more things around mobile marketing, I now start to change what the Watson recommendation is of the products and services that IBM has and the products and services that our business partners have. And oh, by the way, remember those developers we talked about before? When they start working on our platform and they want to place a distribution of their products and services, like that 12-year-old kid in India, he wants to place his product and service within our marketplace. As long as it's IBM certified, we're going to let him do that. So this ecosystem now starts to feed itself around the volume around IBM. So how do we get at that long tail? How do we get at this new customer? Those are 3 examples of how we're trying to get at that new customer in a very short time frame. So how do you do this? How do you actually get an organization that's the size of IBM to do something like this? And it's an interesting sort of thing to come in from the outside and be dropped in. Because there's so much information, and there's so much IBM-ism, whether it's the IBM speak, the acronyms. It'll take me 3 years to figure that out. You just can't. It's just not intuitive of who you are. So in my simple brain, I really had to figure out, how do I get my team, which is now 6,000 people, how do we get them to think through how we're going to approach it? And there's 3 words that I use on an ongoing basis for the new IBM. One is having self-confidence. Self-confidence in who IBM is, okay? I don't want to hear that our products and services don't relate to that startup entrepreneur. I don't want to hear that our products and services don't help the developer get to another level. What we want to talk about is the power of our tools in these enterprises are so relevant about cybersecurity that if you're going to think about protecting your business, the best tools and services you want is IBM to surround you. Okay? That's a different way of thinking about self-confident from the inside. Don't be fearful of who you are. What that allows you to do when you have the self-confidence in who you are and the products and services that you have, you're able to simplify the problem. And when we start simplifying the problem, we talk about solving 80% of that problem. And we start talking about solutions to solve 80%, there's sometimes a tendency to always talk about that other 20% on the fringes and complicate the problem. And I remember being in one meeting and we're talking about this product and whether or not we could actually get it launched and think marketing, and it was all about this one country. Well, this one country, this one country, this one country. And I finally asked the question after 15 minutes, well, is the product even available in that country? And the answer was no. The product's not available for 9 months. So why the hell are we even talking about solving that problem until the product is there? So we try to sometimes simplifying the problem and getting something done is just as important as solving the 100%. That then allows you to do speed, and that allows you to get there quickly. And I think the idea of the startup mentality is very, very important. So I run stand-ups. They're 30 minutes. No one sits down. Everybody stands up in a meeting. And we basically use Zoom for people that aren't located. And we have a very strict agenda. And for those of you in the technology world, it's normal course of doing business. Okay? But for us, to get things out the door and to get these things launched, we're critical. So putting the speed into our system, the expectation that I have of the IBM organization and the culture, is incredibly important for us to win in the marketplace, especially when we have the startups and the entrepreneurs who are going after our business. So last thing I'll leave you with is the new IBM. You can play a video, sorry.
Come on. Wait for me, butterfly, wait for me. I'm only trying to set you free. Wait for me, problems, wait for me. I'm only human, so let me be. Let me be.
So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I think I have time for questions if anyone has questions. Yeah, you just need the mic, I think they told me. Make sure you get it.
Thanks so much for your presentation. Can you give an example of a situation where you worked with an entrepreneur, maybe a startup or a small business, where their ideas were so innovative that IBM was able to accelerate their ideas and vision more so than if they'd worked with any other company? Do you have an example, a case study of that?
Yeah, no, look, there's a company called Alpha Modus, and their job, actually the CEO saw Watson in jeopardy. And he sort of was inspired by figuring out how you crunch all of the market data at the end of the day to predict alpha. And what he's using, and it's a public case that we've used multiple times, he's actually using Watson to crunch all of the financial data plus extra data, unseen data, about what really moves the market. So he's actually able to predict sort of the alpha or the close of the market in a different way than the competitors do, and sort of help advice with that. So again, sort of, I think the power, think about what IBM did with the health records, okay? Not only personal health they had to get, which was sort of the individual patient records they had to sort of pull together. They had to pull together all that research that's been done every day, millions and billions of records. And then they actually had to pull together all that dark data, whether it was imagery, videos, whatever that may be, and pull all that data together to actually come up with some kind of recommendation for a doctor, okay? So if you think about where we can help the best, it's sort of in that sort of reconciliation of all that data and tied together. So in the financial markets, it was a perfect application for the CEO to sort of take Watson, take the billions of dollars that IBM put there, use that technology. Now, the interesting thing with Watson, just to be aware, Watson, it takes time for Watson to learn, okay? So Watson is not out of the box, right? That it can tell you the weather, you know, what's happening right there. I actually call that more of a dumb AI system because it's just repeating to you what's on your phone. But if you want real actionable insights, you've got to let Watson learn. And it needs to learn about your particular regulations, particular health insights, and it can crunch lots and lots of data, which then gives you gives you insight so that you can actually take action.
Thank you. The reason why I was asking is my friend and I just graduated college, and we started a social media automation tool for small businesses to crunch data on their social feeds, essentially. So we've been thinking of AI systems that we want to integrate with so we can help the small business and entrepreneur as well. So thank you. That's very insightful.
Yeah, come talk to us after. We'll help.
Okay, thank you.
Any others?
How do you fight the antibodies of change?
Yeah. You know, I keep saying to everyone, you know, it's a big blue elephant, right? And I can only eat one bite of the elephant at a time. And I'm going to the path of least resistance, right? So there's probably, you know, 10 different business units at IBM. And for those business units that raise their hand and say, yes, I want to go to the long tail clients and I want to help you, I'm leaning in really hard. And the other piece is holding people accountable. Because what I find is sort of in this big blue elephant, the ownership and accountability can get lost for great reasons, easy reasons, you know, different priorities happen. But this idea of going where somebody wants to hit a particular objective in a very short time frame and then measuring them on are we getting to that end unit is really important. It sounds very simple, but it's just a matter of discipline and it's a matter of holding folks accountable. So it's interesting, even with the Think Marketing launch, you know, I got probably into 2 weeks of it and the team came back and said it's impossible. We're not going to be able to get it out the door. We can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do that. So I basically said, okay, stop the meeting. What I need to know is what are the barriers and how am I going to help you? This meeting, our stand-up, is about barrier breaking down. So you need to come to me with all the barriers. I don't want to know that we can't do it. I want to know what the barriers are we need to break down. Now, the reality is we compromised on the MVP, right, based on that information. But come with me with the barriers that I can help you with as a senior level manager. Don't tell me I can't do it. And I think that that's a different attitude because I think if you're serving very large customers, a month delay is not a big deal. You know, I mean, it's sort of like you're working with them for so long, you've got trusted relationships. But when you've got to get stuff out the door because you're supporting a small little startup and their whole business is based on the revenue that they're generating based on what your tools and technologies are, the sense of urgency needs to go way up.
Hey, so I know that next week you guys are going to launch new ads on the weather company for Campbell's and some other companies. I'm kind of curious, how quickly do you hope to scale that strategy? And do you see that going from beyond the weather company to publishers across the board? Yeah,
so look, I think thank God someone has taken the HTML format in an ad unit and innovated on it. Okay, and what the weather company has done, I've been asking for this to be done for years, if anyone has heard me say this before, but we got placement nailed, guys. It's all about creativity. And what the weather company has done is they basically have taken this HTML format and allowed somebody to use Watson behind it in natural language to answer and get communication back. So Campbell's is a great sort of example of what's going on. I think the strategy is, you know, look, I think the weather company and where they say, the weather company and their strategy right now, they probably have the best vantage point to explode that through IBM. And I'm not sure that you want to re-examine that and put it somewhere else. Now, in the Think Marketing portal, okay, that's a buyer type. So their products and services will show up in that portal, right? So if you're looking for interactive ads, it should pop up as a product that comes down there. So they have the expertise. They know location strategy better than anyone else in the company. So I don't know exactly what the future will be, but for right now, they own that product and that service for us.
So maybe a quick follow-up. So do you think that, but it could be possible to, let's say, bring this to, let's say, the Washington Post or AOL or something like that?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, just like Undertone and the rest of the world who went after the creative side of the business, right? They went to every media buyer, you know, and performer, and they embedded their technology in there. So I think if there's media players that are interested in taking HTML and making it work for once in our lives, yes, I think they should sort of approach the weather company and talk to them. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Am I wrapping up? Yeah. One more question? One more question, if anyone has it. Yes. You can't get two questions. I'm only kidding. What's your question?
What's next for you? What are you looking forward to in the next 6 months?
Yeah, no, I think what's next is just more of the same. I actually believe that what we need to really do at this point, once we sort of got these pilots go, we need to keep the momentum going. Momentum sort of just begs momentum. So you're gonna see a lot more innovation like these things we're talking about coming out of IBM. And at the same time, it's really taking a hard look at what the competition's doing and how do we outmaneuver the competition given the strength of what IBM has to offer. So I really appreciate your time, guys, listening to sort of the IBM transformation story, and I look forward to working with all you guys as we go forward. Thank you.